Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Daniel. I am the director at the Center for Somatic Development, where we help advance a modality called Somatics. And our somatic meditation today is based off of this philosophy. I am also the author of this book, Awaken to Your True Self, Why You're Still Stuck and How to Break Through. If you've read the book, leave a little comment. Let us know how you like it, or a long one. So, what we're going to be doing today is a somatic meditation. Now, this is an introductory class. This is an introductory practice session. What we do in workshops and in my private practice is a much more advanced version of this, getting into therapy and healing and awakening and transformation. But the somatic practice that we're going to do today is going to be around our hands. And before we get into that practice, I'll share a little bit about what somatic meditation is, how its benefits, why you want to do this, and how this will all go. So I'll continue with my introduction here. Then I will introduce the meditation. We will go through the meditation together. And then afterwards, you may leave or you may stick around for some Q&As and discussions. We got a lot of people here today, so I think we're going to have a very lively Q&A and discussion afterwards. Those tend to be very valuable for folks. Get to share your experience, get to ask me some questions, get to help others and inspire others. Excellent, Claire. Great. So, what are we going to be doing? Somatic meditation. So let's just start off with what somatic meditation is. So somatic meditation is a practice to help you get out of your head and into your body. It's a practice of stilling the mind using the body, rather than trying to stop the mind with the mind, right? A lot of traditional meditations. Again, you guys are probably pros here on this meditation platform, but there are a lot of people who struggle with stilling the mind, quieting the mind, because they're using the mind. They're thinking thoughts to not think thoughts. It's like the ego coming in and saying, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. Egos are bad. You know what? I'll help you get rid of the ego. And so now the ego's helping you get rid of your ego. And it just doesn't work. So it can be helpful for a lot of people, but other people, like myself, just sitting there and trying to use my head to get out of my head didn't work. But what did work is getting into the body, whether it's through a silencing and a stilling of the body or through movement. The body is a gateway into the present moment. The head is a gateway out of the present moment. The mind is wonderful. The mind is what separates us from all other species, right? We've been able to do tremendous things with our mind, thinking things through, being able to predict the future, inventions, tools, amazing stuff, problem solving, engineering, medicine. It's amazing. And so many of us are stuck up there. So many of us think we're this little thing in between the ears, looking out from the eyes, looking down into our bodies, looking out into the world, watching life go by us as if it was a movie. This is not life. This is not being fully alive, engaged in life. The only way to do that is to be embodied. So a somatic meditation practice is a very helpful way to still the mind and get into our body and start feeling. Feeling is the key. The more you're in your body, the more you're feeling, the more you're aware of all of this stuff that's happening here and in the space, the less opportunity and less time and less chance you have to be stuck up here in your head. Does this make sense? So rather than spending so much time and effort trying to figure all of this out, we just get out of there. We just drop into our body, start feeling. And in feeling, in the body, we're in the present moment. If you've been to my practice session or watched the replay on YouTube a few weeks ago about anxiety. So anxiety is an avoidance of feeling. It's an avoidance of the present moment. And so if you struggle with anxiety, if you struggle with being in your head, if you struggle with trying to escape into fantasies to avoid life, this is going to be a practice that may change your life. It's not only changed my life, but it saved my life and many of my clients. So what we're going to be doing today is a very simple somatic meditation of exploring through movement. And this process is a practice. The more you do it, right, the more you get into your body, the more you're in feeling, the more you're there, which means the less you're up here. So rather than just trying to get out of here, right? If I say don't think of a pink elephant, don't think of a pink elephant. Whatever you do, stop thinking of a pink elephant. What do you have to do? You have to think of a pink elephant to then try to stop it, right? So this is how the mind works. So if you say stop thinking, what is actually happening? The focus is on thinking. But if you say, all right, start feeling, go into your body, you're using directionalized language. You're directing your attention to where you want it to be rather than where you don't want it to be. It's a very powerful lesson. It's a very powerful thing that you can apply in your life. All right, so we got a question. Marie says, how can we feel the body when we are in a noisy or stressed out environment? Great question. Great question. What's the answer? Anybody have an answer? So, a noisy and stressed out environment. So let's just look at this real quick. Okay, so let's start with noisy, right? So all this noise out in the world. Well, what is happening is at some level, probably through just a lack of practice, we allow ourselves to get pulled out, right? We allow the noise, the culture, our environment, the space to pull us out of the moment. Now that is our choice. It may not seem like it's our choice. It may seem like we're just helpless to the whims of our environment. But this is going to be the first step into reclaiming that power, to reclaiming that it is a choice. Now, you may not know how you're choosing it or why you're choosing it or that you are even choosing it or what to do about it. But if you can first bring the power back to you, right? First thing you want to do is become aware that the environment is taking you out. You're letting it take you out. You're allowing it to take you out. You can still be in that environment and still have feeling, still be in awareness. It's more challenging, certainly. But that's where something like this, a practice, will help you be able to, in those environments, you're more in feeling, you're more in your body. And so when you are in those environments, it'll be a lot easier. But the first step is really to say, hey, wait a minute. I'm letting this take me out of myself. And so when you can realize that, because we can't always control the environment. In fact, most of the time we can't control the environment. I gotta Ooh, it's getting hot here today. It's getting hot here. Let's turn my AC down. This Tennessee heat. All right, so the first thing is understanding that if we can change the environment to practice, right? If we can just go somewhere, like Sandy says, start alone, right? Just go somewhere. Just take a break. Recenter yourself. Reground yourself. But if we can't, right, say, all right, well, how am I giving my power away? And then from there, you can start taking it back and saying, okay, well, yes, this is noisy and distracting, and these people just want all my time and attention. Well, great. Then you start having boundaries, right? Start setting boundaries with other people, with the environment, and internally. So those are going to be a few first steps. I don't want to, this could be a whole conversation, so I don't want to take away from the meditation, but those are good first starting points in taking your power back and starting on a path where you don't let the world take you out, right? You are the one that is at choice. You're choosing your life. Now, there are things that are out of your control. That's where surrender comes in. That's where the boundaries come in. So great question. Almost too good of a question. So I hope that's a helpful start. So what we're going to be doing today is a somatic meditation with our hands. So this is a really good introductory practice to become aware of what's happening in your body. All right. I think that we should just get into it. Unless anybody has any other questions, we're just going to get into the meditation. All right. So, excellent. Let's take 3 deep breaths together. For this one, you can be sitting, lying, or standing. You're just going to need to be able to use your hands. So if you're holding your phone or tablet, find a place to set it down so you can see or listen. All right? Excellent. What I often like to do is to center myself, to get grounded before I do any of these. And the best way I like to do that is getting my feet on the ground, literally. So if you're lying down, this is okay. Just bring your attention to your feet, maybe to your bed or couch. Sitting or standing, feel your feet on the earth. You don't need to do anything metaphysical here, nothing esoteric required. Just feel your feet on the earth, on the ground. Shoes, socks, all okay. Barefoot, fine. Wiggle your toes a little bit. Just bring your attention down, down, down. We spend so much time up here. Anything we can do to come down here. I like to wiggle my hips, wiggle my butt. So keep your feet on the floor. All of your feet. Make sure your toes stay on the floor. For some clients and people, just keeping your toes on the ground has resulted in tremendous breakthroughs, healings, for myself included. So that's kind of a bonus one. But just keep your toes on the ground, keep your feet on the ground. Wiggle your hips, feel your hips, your glutes, thighs. Just take a moment, get down here. Drop down. Go nice and slow. There's nothing wrong with fast. However, in my experience, what I've noticed with many clients, hundreds of people, oftentimes speeding through things is an avoidance pattern. Going really fast, you tend to skip over all the data. So as you're feeling, you can see that I'm moving here. It's very soft, it's very subtle, and it's with my lower body. Just soft. Listen. So we're going to be moving our hands. You may say, well, why are we in our feet, in our butt, if we're moving our hands? Well, because we want to be in our whole body. If you start moving your hands from your head versus down here, it can feel very different. So I'm going to give you an example of this. I'm going to give you a reference point of what this might look like differently. Okay. So this is not something that's ideal or perfect or something that you want to mimic. This is just simply a demonstration of what moving from these two places might feel like. So the first example here, I'm going to do from down in this place. Okay, and then if I close that off and I come up here in my head and I shut everything down, right, that's what that might feel like. Now there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different variations. And even doing that second one is very uncomfortable for me at this point. But leave a comment here if you could feel the difference. If you could feel energetically or emotionally how you responded, what happened in your own body from one to the other. Or if you don't want to be distracted by leaving a comment, just answer it yourself. That is okay. So, let's get back down in here. Okay. Feel your toes. And this is something that we can practice. This can be something that we will practice here. All right, so we got some comments. Yes, when it came from my head, it felt mechanical. Your breathing became shallow. When away from the head, released some tension. Oh, it just, for you, released some tension. Great, excellent. Jana says, seeing you do it was ungrounding. Yeah, excellent. Okay, so remember, this is something nobody really tells us. Our energy affects other people. Our energy affects other people. What we're doing inside of ourselves affects the space around us. We are not alone. We are not isolated. We are connected to everything. So if you've ever had an experience where you're saying all of the things, you're saying everything perfectly, all the right words, and yet people are going to be uninterested, maybe reject you, maybe ignore you, maybe don't take you seriously, whatever it is. It's probably because there's something else going on. Where it's coming from doesn't match, isn't congruent with the actual words. All right, so what we're going to be doing here, we're going to take one of our hands. Let's take our right hand. Okay. So just do something like I'm doing. Just bring your hand up and move your fingers around. Now, don't copy me. Don't try to mimic me. That's just an example. Whatever feels most normal and natural to you. It's not about copying me. It's about feeling and discovering and being with what's real and true in your body. There's no right way or wrong way. There are ways that are functional. There are ways that are dysfunctional. There are ways that create suffering. There are ways that lead to joy. But it's not good or bad, right or wrong. Bring your attention into your hand. Keep your attention on your toes, in your butt, in your hips. Just keep checking in to make sure you're still aware of that. But bring movement into your hands. Keep the rest of your body still. Into your hand, to your right hand. Try different speeds, paces, rhythms. Just start exploring a little bit. This is going to be a reference point. Great. Now, take your left hand and do the same thing. Remember, it's about feeling. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Don't judge it. You're just aware. You're just feeling. Okay. Now, did you notice any difference? Was there a different emotion, a different feeling, a different flavor, a different sensation, different range, different movement? Maybe this hand was like this, and this hand was like this. Maybe this hand was like this, and this hand was like this. Maybe they were almost identical. Laura says left more expressive. Interesting. Dorina says pretty similar. So, the right side of our body is masculine. It is the yang principle. The left side is the yin, the feminine principle. There's other parts of the body, right? The top is a polarity, the bottom, front, back. All have this yin and yang, masculine and feminine quality. So our relationship with the masculine is going to show up in the polarities of the body that reflect the yang. And a relationship with the feminine will show up in the sides that reflect the yin, the feminine. Yang, yin. What we discover in cinesomatics is that oftentimes, almost always, that relationship comes from our mother and father. So many times we actually see feelings and qualities and stories and energies and mythologies of the father figure, doesn't have to be the father, stepfather, whatever, father figure, in the right side, and the mother, the feminine figure, in the left. So with that information, it may be interesting to feel that a little bit more. Now bring both hands up. All right, so now you know the masculine yang quality, feminine yin quality. If that bothers you, right, if it triggers you or bothers you that we're saying masculine, feminine, well, that's going to indicate there's something going on for you. So in my book and in my work, triggers are great. Things that bother us are great because they point us to what needs healing. If it's too much for you, just do yin and yang. It's all the same thing. It does not matter. But I found that if it does bother you, it reveals your relationship with those energies, the masculine and feminine principles. And what we're going for is that relationship in ourselves to be functional, to be healed. So we can have a healthy dialogue, right? A healthy dialogue between the masculine and feminine within ourselves. Then that manifests in our relationships elsewhere. So have your both hands up and just start playing, right? Just start experimenting. Maybe this one moves this way. Maybe it moves this way. Well, how does this respond? So go into feeling. This is fun. Let's try this. Pick one side. Pick masculine, feminine. Have them do one movement and then feel. Go into feeling. Make sure you're feeling. Don't overthink it. What's the natural reaction? What's the natural response that the other hand wants to do? So I will give you a few minutes to play with this. So Claire says there's a different range, different movements. The left was stiffer and faster. The right was fluid and flowing. More flow, fluidity of motion in my left, even though I'm right-handed. So just explore. What's the dynamic? Maybe this one's very domineering, right? It just wants to be really aggressive. And then this one hides out. Or maybe this one starts wanting to bicker back. Maybe this one, or let's say this one, wants to dance and to play. And then this one is just like, whatever. Remember, this is not a rational process. None of this needs to make any sense. In fact, the more you try to understand this, the more you need this to make sense, the more you'll slow it down, the more you'll get in your own way. The whole point of this is to get out of your head. Do not think about this. Feel it. Feel through it. Just be aware. Notice any judgments, any stories that come up. Then switch. Try the other side. Have the other side lead, the other side follow. So I'm going to read through some comments. Feel free to keep exploring this. You can tune me out if you'd like. All the permission to do that. Just explore. Do they want to touch? Do they want to avoid each other? What rules do you think there are? What rules are you projecting onto this exploration? Remember, it's a somatic meditation. Feel, be in your body. If you start analyzing, thinking about stuff, just stop and just bring your attention back into your hands. Bring your attention back into your hands. It is, in a way, interfacing with your subconscious. If you're thinking about it and forcing it through your head, it's going to be a different experience than if you just allow and trust whatever your body naturally wants to do. That's your ego hijacking it, getting in the way. It's okay, it's fine. This is why it's a practice. If you're having troubles with this, if you're way in your head, that only means you need to practice this stuff more. All right. Keep going. Keep playing with this. Switch things up every now and then. Whatever I just said. All right, what do we got here? Sophie says, seems like I'm very good with males. Wink. Claire says, did that on the left and the natural response on the right was to clench. Amelia says, how does this play with left-handedness, right-handedness? Not very much. I found that you may have more dexterity and strength in one hand. That's usually the extent of it. However, along with that, there could be some unconscious favoring. Right? So you may favor one side over the other. Your non-dominant hand may be, you may have kind of mapped it out. You may never use it. Well, that is telling. So that could be something. So what we do in the advanced work is, in a certain way, become ambidextrous. Another word for that is the androgyne archetype. Not androgynous, but the androgyne. The fully actualized male and female, masculine and feminine. We want our right brain hemisphere, left brain hemisphere, that control the opposite sides of the body. Ideally, we want those equally as developed. So if you find yourself way over relying on one side, not just writing, but doing everything in life. Like, I can come over here and drink with my left hand, even though I'm right-handed. But if you find yourself never doing that, you just always have to switch it to one side, chances are what you'll find is that the non-dominant qualities may be underdeveloped. Now, this is a generalization. It's not an absolute statement at all. Everything is case by case. I'd have to see how you move your hands. But generally speaking, it is not as big as a factor as people think. You can shake both of your hands regardless of which one's dominant. And it won't affect, let's say, a synosomatic diagnostic. But there are things that apply. So, great question. All right, so we got a bunch of questions here. So let's wrap up the meditation, or else this is going to get blurred into conversation time. All right, so All right. The last thing we're going to do, come back to all your questions afterwards. Last thing we're going to do, bring both of your hands up and just move them their default, normal, natural way. The first thing that you feel is let's say, the normal kind of default way you want to move them. All right, do that for a few seconds, both of them. And then go in reverse. Go in reverse. Again, do not do what I'm doing. Do whatever is sort of default first feeling for you. Just see what it feels like just doing the whole thing in reverse. It's a very different sensation for me. Get confused a little bit. Okay, go back to normal. Whatever your sort of normal default thing is. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do the opposite movement. So whatever just intuitively feeling in your body, do not think about this. Just find the first feeling of the opposite. If I'm doing this, maybe to me it would be, something like that. That's cool. I don't think I've ever done this one before. So again, you just, whatever it feels intuitively in your body, the opposite movement is. With your hands. Don't go into your feet or something else. Just opposite within the context of your hands. So be aware of anything that comes up. Be aware of any judgments, any stories, any feelings, any emotions. Anything that comes up, just be aware, right? You may think it's ugly, you may think it's super fun. You may be judging me in this dumb exercise. Whatever it is, it's okay. You just be aware. Remember, this is an introduction to this stuff. This is just a taste, a beginning of what we can do in the body. All right, great. So let's conclude the meditation. We have a lot of comments and a lot of questions and discussions. So stick around after the meditation and we'll get into all of that stuff. All right. So you can relax now. Put your hands down. We're going to take 3 deep breaths and close off the meditation and hop right into the discussion. Great. Well, thank you everybody for joining for the meditation. If you have to go, thank you for joining us. If you want to stick around and talk about this and figure out what the heck just happened, what all that was about, then please stick around and we'll go over what all this was and what was happening for you and help you see what's going on a little bit further. Otherwise, thank you again for joining me. My name is Andrew Daniel, and you can find this replay also on my Clips channel. I have a Clips and Replay channel on YouTube with all of these replays. So if you came in the middle of it and you want it from the beginning, go and check that out. have a great weekend. All right. Let's look at some of these comments. All right. So Jay says, it seems like they mimic one another for me. Example, oops, let's keep sliding down. I tried to do 2 different motions, but after a couple of seconds, they were acting in the same manner. Let's see what we got here. Sorry, every time someone puts a new comment in, it slings it back up, so I gotta keep scrolling. Claire says, switched it. The right wasn't very coordinated. The left didn't want to do anything. Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. So just see if there's any aspect that relates to the yin, any feminine part of yourself that just doesn't want to do anything. And what happens if you listen to that, right? Maybe the feminine just feels overworked and it just says, nope, I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. I don't know. Again, these are just examples. I'd have to see what's going on. But these are just examples, not necessarily your specific thing. All right. Amelia says, I have chronic pain in one hand. Hope your hand gets better. Mira says, both were equally balanced and very flowy in the first exercise. Then when I moved the right, the left wanted to follow, but when I moved the right, when I moved the right, the left wanted to follow. But when I moved the left, the right didn't care. Interesting. So that is interesting. Again, big preface, may not be the answer for you, but as an example of what this might reveal, potentially to somebody, is you sort of personify this. All right, you have the masculine and the feminine, right? So the feminine is going to follow the man, but when it comes to the man following the woman, he's uninterested. So you see that there's some lack of reciprocation in that masculine energy, right? It's like, I'm only going to lead. I'm not going to follow. That's not a good leader, right? That's not a functional male energy. We both lead and follow. Energetically, if we only look at the yang energy is the leading energy, the yin is the following energy. But when it comes to actual relationships, when it comes to actually relating to these things, right, we want the ability to do both, right? We don't just want one to do one and one the other. We want to be able to be in relationship, right? We want them integrated to be able to act as one unit. But if they only act as one unit in one direction, but not the other, right, something's going on. Again, a made-up potential example out of potentially dozens. They tend to do the reverse opposite of the movement the other one is doing in a coordinated manner. The reverse opposite. The reverse opposite. Like, are you meaning like they mirror it, or they're actually like counter opposed to each other? Not quite clear. Sandy says they are trying to communicate, a lot of shaking, but got to something that felt interactive after. Yeah, so there might be just this, like in your relationships or internally, that desire to communicate, and maybe it's kind of, you're trying to find that place first. Maybe it just takes you a while to then plug in. Don't know, but these are just examples of what this could reveal. Whether it's inside yourself, maybe it's not outside your relationships. Maybe this is your logic and your intuition having a dialogue. Right? Maybe it takes a while for the logic and the intuition or the creative and the structure, right? All these qualities, these yang qualities and these feminine qualities within us, right? Creative and the structured. We need both, right? The leading and the following, the supportive and the visionary. If you notice yourself getting weird about this, well, it's revealing that you have judgments, that you're out of relationship with these qualities within yourself. Because leading isn't better than following. Following isn't better than leading. Having a vision isn't better than being the support. Being the support isn't better than the vision. Male isn't better than female. Female isn't better than male. Yin isn't better than yang. Yang isn't better than yin. If you feel any of those, if you feel any of that come up, it shows that there's something inside of yourself to be healed. And I can guarantee somebody somewhere on the skull has something like that, because this is rampant in our culture. Our culture has pitted the masculine and feminine energies against each other. So this is normal. What we want to do is, through work like this in ourselves, without having to go out and destroy the culture, within ourselves, we can have these somatic practices to get into relationship with these masculine and feminine qualities in ourselves. And so something like this today is just a very simple, easy way to start exploring these dynamics within ourselves, to start revealing these hidden patterns, stories, energies that are running us that we might not have any idea are even there. Loris says, it is a good thing I'm having, I don't know what you said, but I like the smiles. And you said fun, so that's great. Mira, thank you for that support for Camellia. That's very sweet of you. Sandy, thank you for your donation. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Claire says they've started to mirror more with more practice. Okay, so you notice that the more you do it, the more they start mirroring each other and being able to sync up and get into relationship. So the more you do that, the easier it is for both sides to be able to mirror each other, to be able to act as one unit. The more those internal qualities in yourself will be able to. And the more you'll be able to do that with those energies with other people. So as above, so below. As below, so above. This stuff affects everything. This may seem like just a dumb, silly, hand-moving exercise, but once you truly understand what the implications are, this is just an easy little meditation here, guys. The most important thing is the implications of what all of this means into life and into humanity. So if you got some light bulbs going on, that's great. That's what it's really about. This is a beginning of waking up to the truth of what's really happening for you inside of you, how we're all connected. And almost nobody is talking about this in a grounded, physical, somatic way. We just hear a lot of, oh, yes, we're all one, and it feels very flighty. This is a way that you can actually start grounding and applying spiritual and psychological, philosophical principles in your daily life through your body, rather than just theory. Very powerful stuff. Claire says, I love the reverse. I started laughing. Ooh, it feels happy and joyful. Okay, great. So, see how you can apply this to your life. How can you practically apply that? How can you reverse your way in certain things? Now, it's not going to be everything, but maybe there's just a default way that you go. Maybe you literally walk through your door backward. You'll probably smile and laugh and have some fun. So see how doing it in reverse can be applied to some things that you do in your life so that you can start laughing more and having more fun. Jay says, I had to concentrate more on the reverse movement. Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's certainly, that's a little bit challenging. Here. Okay, here we go. Took a second. It's okay if you're around people and they're like, what is this person doing with their hands? Try it. You can be out in a cafe, on the bus, with your friends, just going, whatever. Like, what are you doing? You're like, it's a somatic meditation. Here, try it. Or just tell them you're just crazy, and they'll leave you alone. That's what I do. Sandy says, thank you for creating the space for this exploration. Super interesting. You are so welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for willing to explore this with us. It can be a little bizarre at first without a context, but it's really cool, really fun stuff. Kelly says, thank you, more grounded. Excellent, great. Cassia says, thank you. You are welcome. Jay, very interesting to say the least. Awesome. Sophie, what if there is one side someone really doesn't want to use? Great question. That will generally reveal a judgment, maybe. Maybe it's a tantrum. A defiance, and that usually could be because it's not being heard. You're not listening to that. It doesn't have a voice. It feels powerless, so it's trying to take back some power. It could just be shut off. It depends specifically on the feeling, right? Because you could just be numb and it's just dead, and you're like, I just don't want to move it. Or it could just be in this like defiance, right? Like a child saying, I'm not gonna. So it depends what the feeling is. Again, this brings us back to, this is not just body language. This is not just yoga stuff. It's about the feeling. What is the feeling of it? What's the story? What's the energy underneath the body? The feeling is going to reveal the truth. So yeah, you want to play with that. Is it chronic? Does it feel like that often, most of the time? Or is it just now? Maybe it's shy. Maybe it's embarrassed. Maybe it's scared. You got to go into the feeling of it. You can even dialogue. If that's too hard, you can just kind of pretend, use your imagination, dialogue with it. Ask it some questions. Say, why don't you want to move? And listen. If you're like, well, that's stupid. Well, it's probably why it's throwing a fit, not wanting to move, because you're not willing to listen to it. It doesn't mean that, I don't like going into this, like you have 100 different parts kind of thing, because then you just create all the separation in your body. You just kind of get like schizophrenic. But as an exercise to be able to dialogue with yourself, if you need to do that, it is helpful momentarily to kind of create that role play so you can figure it out. And remember that it's all you. It's not a separate thing. And if it is acting separate, eventually what you want to do is to integrate that, to bring that back in. Or else you might have a mutiny on your hands. All right. Laura says, thank you for this exercise. It makes so much sense. You are welcome. Claire. Sorry, not Carrie. Claire. I've carried the do something wrong from last week all through this week, and it has been very powerful. Wonderful. Oh, I'm so glad you've implemented that. Oh, that's wonderful. That's so great. I love when people actually do it. Oh, that's so great. Yeah. You get the result. You do the stuff. Yes, I need to laugh more. I worry too much. Well, there you go. Jay says, I am on a bus in downtown New York City and people are moving away from me. Kidding. I knew there was someone on a bus. Laura says, it reminds me of how Alanis Morissette uses her hands so much in performing. Interesting. I'll have to take a look. Claire says, this all makes so much sense. It really is very, very clever. Excellent. I love the internal completeness of this modality. Yeah, it's really, really powerful stuff. Sophie, thank you. You are welcome. I hope that's helpful. Dorina says, I tried being messy in my coloring book after last week. What happened? How did it feel? Most important thing is what you felt. And after that, we'll wrap up. We made it just to the hour mark. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. We have over 200 people here. That's amazing. Thank you all for joining. I just want to see what Dorina experienced with her coloring book. Dorina says, it felt good, but I didn't like the result aesthetically. I understand. I have a background in design. It's good to know what actually looks good, and if it feels good, right? Because we just want to penetrate the story. It doesn't mean you're always going to color outside the lines. It's just to help you penetrate that story so you have more range. You can color outside the lines if you want to, if you need to, and it's okay, and it feels good, and it's fun. You don't panic. You don't freak out. Once you do that, you say, okay, well, yeah, it looks good this way. Excellent. All right, Claire, thank you so much yet again. You are so welcome again. All right. Well, that about wraps things up for today's somatic meditation practice. Thank you all for joining me. We'll be back next week, next Saturday, do something else. Jay says, this was really cool, insightful. Andrew, thank you. You are welcome. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and getting more into your bodies. My name is Andrew Daniel. I am the director at the Center for Somatic Development, where if you like this kind of stuff, you'll either love or hate doing the deep, advanced somatic work. I'm also the author of Awaken to Your True Self, Why You're Still Stuck and How to Break Through. If you like this stuff, there is a bunch of things in the book about this. And that's it. Looking forward to it. Awesome. I'll see you guys then. Jesse, you are welcome. Thank you for showing up. Yeah, that's all I got. We'll see you guys next time. Ciao.